Once there was a man named the Hipster Snek. He had fame, power, and glory beyond your wildest dreams before he was executed for, indecent crimes against the internet. It was the words he said.
My fortune is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. She took everything she owns in 2 bags.
And now the great era of piracy has begun.
You wouldn't download a car.
No,
Yay!
no one remembers that from One Piece. It was like a whole other thing after that.
Yes, greetings, everyone. This is your humble host, the Hipster Snek, joined today not just by steadfast companion Ditaku, but 3 other fellows. Gentlemen, please make your presence known.
He called us fellows.
I am Oddball.
I'm Matty D.
And I'm Diablo Graves.
Yes, these fine guys decided to join us and give us insight, because this is... what are your roles, specifically? Let the people at home know what did you do for OmOneko and any other related projects that we might have touched upon.
I failed to get mental health treatment.
Understandable.
I guess that's what pretty much birthed the whole thing. Yeah, so Matty D here. I came up with the idea mostly because I discovered visual novels, immediately loved the medium, turned around, started playing more, and I was like, hey, let's get deep into this. Let's find out about cat girls, and really did not like anything I found. Thought the trope was just totally lazy.
Right.
So came up with some ideas, roped in these 2 guys.
I'm Oddball. I've done writing, editing, and some character design for OmOneko.
Nice.
And Diablo Graves. I've done some writing, lots of editing, a little bit of the music work for it, and a little bit of coding. And a lot of Matty D reining in of ideas.
Yeah, we call them the Matty Wranglers, mostly.
All right, fair.
Mhm.
So, before we get underway, I just wanted to say thank you, first off, for making the game, and second, for bringing it to my attention. It's very humbling for me because I still feel like I'm still a very small YouTube channel. So whenever a game dev or writers or anyone who's worked on a game draws my attention to it, that means so much to me. And OmOneko was a fantastic experience start to finish. And we loved every bit of it.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for playing it, and we enjoyed ego surfing your Let's Play of it. So
Absolutely. I will say, for those who have not watched it or have only seen bits of it, it's a little bit of a time investment, but there is a full playlist, start to finish, and it will eat up about 30 to 40 hours of your time, as the game did to me. But it's a wild ride, and it's one of the things that actually, I think it really helped open the floodgates to me being more open to visual novels. Here's the thing. Prior to, like, A Whole Lot to Love, OmOneko, and, like, Nina Aquila, the demo I did, like, way back, my experience with visual novels is pretty much limited to the Ace Attorney series. So this has been like horizon expanding for me.
no, I was just going to say, funny you should say that, because a year before the development on OmOneko started, I didn't know what a visual novel was. My video game history was, if it wasn't World of Tanks or an Elder Scrolls game, I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And then I lost a bet, and I had to play Doki Doki Literature Club. And good Lord, that opened the floodgates to the medium.
All right, fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually in the same boat as you. My primary experience had been more with the adventure hybrids of visual novels. I am a big
Right.
fan of the Ace Attorney series. A couple of similar ones like that. More mystery solving, exploring kind of interrogation, those kinds of fun games.
Right.
But yeah, I met Matty D through Doki Doki Literature Club. I saw a friend of mine had played it, and I was like, well, why would I be interested in this? And then I saw the psychological horror tag, and I was like, wait a minute. And it kind of went from there.
Hey.
Interest peaked.
Indeed.
Wow, I guess I'm in the minority here because I'm one of those weird weebs that like I got deep into Fate or the Type Moon like metaverse when I was very young, and so I've kind of been ensconced in a lot of that. But I just kind of accepted that Snek it just wasn't into it until he's like, oh yeah, I'm doing a bunch of visual novels. I'm like, really now? Okay.
Yeah, that's when I knew I was done for.
I think that Oddball is probably like you did, Taco, because he
Yeah.
met him through the Katawa Shoujo fandom.
Mm.
All right, I gotta admit my failure here. I have never actually played Katawa Shoujo, despite the fact that I do know what it is.
We'll play it.
Put it on the queue.
All right, that's fair. I will get around to it. I promise.
You want to?
Also-
You were going to get emotionally destroyed, Professor. I just want you to know.
So I have heard.
Probably more than once.
That's fair.
Also DDLC if you haven't.
I have not.
Although, as I would point out, that particular tag means you're it's not going to necessarily be what you expect, but it's still very good.
I know the twist. I've seen the memes, so I know the general through line of the twist. I just don't know like the how. But I'd be willing to give it a shake. I mean, as said, visual novels are something I'm embracing a bit more. I'll tell you guys an interesting fact. Most of the time, when I do a Let's Play that is longer than 2 parts, and viewer interest drops off hard. Like, the first 2 episodes will have a large amount of views, everything plateaus and drops, and then the last episode will have like a sudden spike, because people just basically want to see like beginning and end. OmOneko did not do this. The entire time, the numbers for OmOneko were incredibly consistent from the first to the last episode.
Nice.
Wow, that's great to hear.
The power of cat girls, baby.
It is. It really is. If you want to see it, I did a Trials of Mana Let's Play several years ago, and like the first episode had a whole like a couple dozen. Everything else had like 10, 15, and then the last episode got like 40.
To be fair, bro, I kind of had a medical emergency right when you.
Yeah, you kind of
started that, so I
exploded. That
apologize.
was bad all around. So in honor to celebrate you gentlemen's achievements and OmOneko as a game, we have a short laundry list of questions for you. And you guys are free to answer or not answer, or choose to decline or defer. However you want to do it's fine. You're not obligated, obviously. But we do have some stuff that we're curious to see what your thoughts are.
We're curious to see what your curiosity is.
All right, great. Cat girls and curiosity. All right, let's do this. So
Now, keep in mind, whoever answers the question, you might get a completely different answer if you'd ask a different person.
and that's fair.
Okay.
All right,
No,
that's
that's good to know.
that's cool. Stories
And keep
change.
in
I feel
mind,
like we should.
I was going to say, for those following along at home, there will probably be some kind of spoilers. So highly recommended that, go play the game. See if you like it.
It's free. Like, why have you not played it already? It's free. I've had
It's
it.
free, and to be perfectly honest, if you're reading it and you're not just following along, it's not actually that long. So yeah,
I mean,
no,
our
definitely
Let's Play
take
was long because we were voice acting it, and second because we kept having like 15-minute diatribes every couple sentences.
They were awesome.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm happy that you guys
Thank you.
like our banter and our asides.
There was a lot of tittering happening from me while I was watching you guys when I wasn't going, no.
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, especially with the Claudia one, we were like, we're on the pepper route. We're on the pepper route. And you're like, are you sure about that? I'm like,
Now that you've
oh.
asked, not so much.
I can't remember. Graves and Oddball, did we have a discussion about like, okay, so the name cards are up. There's a Sin Kitty before this. There's a dramatic pause in music moments. It's clear we're on the route, right? And I can't remember if we had this conversation and how it ended up, because you guys were like, Claudia, we're on the pepper route. And I was like, well, how did we get here? How did this happen?
Okay, let me explain. I am remarkably dumb, and I also tend to just kind of like take whatever's being presented to me at face value, and I don't necessarily read in where I need to read in, and then I read in where I shouldn't. So,
Yeah.
so what happened is the early choices in chapter 1 were so below radar that I thought they were flavor text. I didn't think they actually mattered. And then the decision that first happens when Shamey is first brought into the house, and it's like, I should check on Claudia, I should check on Pepper, I should check on Shamey, or I should just like go to bed. That moment made me think that that moment was where the paths of the game actually splintered off from one another. And I was like, oh, this is the first prompt that is naming them. This one matters. And the thing that colored
this was kind
that,
of a we assumed, and then we made an ass, and boom.
we assumed, but for like it was kind of colored because I came to that conclusion because we were already well into Shamey's path. And while we were at this split, Yutaka was like, we should stay with Shamey. That would be the smart thing to do. We ended up on Shamey's path. So I was like, oh, okay, that choice put us on that path. When I returned to my save, I didn't restart the game. I just launched from where we were. So the same choices in chapter 1 had been made up to that point. So then I check on Pepper. So I'm assuming, oh, now we're on Pepper's path. But the way the points were distributed, it put us on Claudia's path. So that's how I ruined this. And then you told me like 8 or 9 times, like, yes, your choices matter and you're being very dumb about this. And I was just like, I do not understand. What mystery could he be unfolding for me?
To be perfectly honest, your entire thing about listen, dumb children, you need to think about things in a very peppery way. And we're like, we had never thought about that before. We had just completely had, skipped our mind. So,
Don't worry, Snek. I blame Gitaka 100% for this because he knows better. He's a visual novel connoisseur.
Oof.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was slightly inebriated for most of that playthrough. So
yes.
Drunk Taku?
I will take that blame.
Inebriated?
Yes.
Drunk Taku was
a
staple until about like halfway into OmOneko, and it certainly made for some spirited banter. I'll say that. So like, cue the frustrated game dev screaming at me. It's like, no, the choices matter, idiot. And I'm like, oh, the choices matter. That's what he's trying to tell me.
The beautiful part about it was you were probably like entire route ahead by the time you uploaded the video.
Probably.
So I'm shouting here at shadows that have, been lost to time about this.
To give you a perspective of what had happened, when he placed that, we were about four updates ahead, basically. So yeah, we were basically on a whole other playthrough at that point. So yeah, that was kind of where I was like, oh man, I'm so sad about this. And then, Snek's like, shh, don't talk about that. That won't happen for like 2 episodes.
So like, I fell in love with OmOneko like immediately. And so we recorded episode 1, and I was just like, dude, you want to keep going? And he's like, yeah, I want to keep going. So like the first
I was in Treglade since like the very beginning too. Yeah.
It's like the first 6 or 7 episodes were recorded in about 2 days' time. The only
Nice.
part that was recorded even like remotely close to real time with regards to its posting was Pepper's Path. Everything up till then was pretty much like almost like a week of continuous recording just because we kept wanting to
And
do
can
more.
I just say, honestly, I was kind of dreading Pepper's Path, but I have to say, excuse me, that I was like, the twist for that one was like so eye-opening. I was like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. This explains everything. Reason why she acts this way, the reason why she addresses Noodles the way that she does, the reason why she interacts with the other Nekos the way she does, the reason why she talks to Veronica, it's like the entire story just kind of unfolded, and I was like, this is fantastic. This is honestly why I was like at the very end, I'm like, this is probably my favorite of the three arcs, even though at first I was like, but it's just, it explains so much, and it just colors the rest of the story. Even in kind of the Shimi route where she kind of just disappears. So I just was like, whoever thought of that, I'm just, wow, that was fantastic. I love that personally.
Yeah, is any one person responsible for any one storyline, or did everyone kind of contribute to every storyline?
Everyone contributed to everything, although there were certain sections that were more heavily written by some people than others.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, so I, for about the first year, had these characters kind of floating around in my head, and they were just doing stuff in my head, living rent-free completely.
All right.
And so I knew the story. I knew what was going to happen. What I didn't know, or what I hadn't figured out, was how it was going to happen. And that's when I started reaching out to people who actually, had some talent, and had to convince them to actually come along, because you'd be surprised when you tell somebody, I've got this idea and it's about cat girls. And they go, I don't like cat girls. And
Yeah, I said that.
and there's only one response to that. Nobody likes cat girls. We're going to fix it.
All right. And that makes perfect sense. I'm like, I'm in the otaku culture as well, so like I 100% get it.
I get it too. I get it too. So,
So like somebody had asked me, because I'm not a writer. I write, and then I give it to these guys, and I make them cry, and then they give it back to me better, and then I give it back to them worse, and then it was basically how we would do things. Oddball would come with a scene, and we'd go through it. I'd come with a scene, and we go through it, and I will tell you that I don't think there's more than a half a dozen lines that survived without dozens of edits. There's like probably, I can think of a few. I can think of a few I did. I know there's several Oddball did. Mr. Graves, we have a paragraph of his that pretty much are unaltered.
Okay.
Everything else got rewritten by everyone. And we kind of screwed up, because we wrote this as a novel. And that's very different than a visual novel.
Right. Because
So
going from like an actual book to a script, right?
Right. And it's more than just, I go into the kitchen. Well, you're showing the kitchen, so you don't have to say I go into the kitchen. But it's so much more than that. It's stuff that we didn't know. So we had this pretty decent novelette of 250,000 words that we were like, okay, let's get this into the build. And as soon as it got onto the screen, lines had to change again and again and again.
Right.
And then Silent Cook from Katawa Shoujo, he had done a couple of rewrites of all our rewrites. And then when we got it into the build, I'll let these guys tell it. We would spend a half an hour arguing about, like, should we have the word "the" in this line? Because if it's it changes the line. And not only does it change the line, but it'll change the perception that this line is imbuing into the audience for how they're going to look at this later.
No,
So
I get it. All right.
if I say that this was a psychopathic type of endeavor, I'm sugarcoating it.
No, I get it. There is a certain I hesitate to say JRPG, but it is very clear that this was kind of their inspiration. And it's kind of our albatross that's around our neck. And it's been with us for a couple of years. I personally loved it. I think Snek loves it. It is not a good game, but it is a game. It is a game of all time. It is Y2K. Are you familiar at all?
I'm
I'm
not.
a little familiar with. There's like isn't that character named like Alex or something in it?
Yes, the main character is Alex, and he has this big red pompadour, which is unfortunately very similar to my own.
Okay.
And the reading that story, I got the sense basically that the developer was trying to produce a novel. So I absolutely understand what you're saying about, having to completely rewrite, gut your narrative. Never mind the fact that I've written a couple novels myself now, so it is a process. I mean, it's just everything has to be perfect now. You can't do I look at like 19th century authors now where they're like they have very strange sentence structure, and it's like you can't do that anymore. People's attention spans are so small, and just the competition is so tight that you can't just be like going for a paragraph about the description of what someone's living room looks like anymore. It's like you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. But that being said, um, uh, so
Well, if I might interject, don't sell everyone too short on attention span. Yes, it is a difficult thing sometimes
Mhm.
to keep attention spans these days, but I think there is still effort in believing in your readers to an extent. We could have gone with one of the fun things about this project was the way the text was displayed and how we were breaking things up, and how even things like how often the user is having to press the button to advance the text. And there was a lot of back and forth on what was the best design or how it looks the best, or we could go on all day about it. But I think we ended up with a bit of a hybrid model that didn't have, I'm sure you've seen some of the old school novel type VNs where you've just got an entire page of text. And then, on the flip
Yes.
side, you've got a lot of the VNs today where you get one line at a time at most. And I think there's definitely, one thing coming away from this project is I think there's definitely room for something in between the two, but definitely, giving people more than one line at a time, giving them something to chew on for a bit, going for that, something to keep them a little bit more hooked. I mean, it takes a lot of effort, but I think it's possible.
All right.
Yeah, Kinoko Nasu loves that. He just puts up an entire block of text, and then just you're just sitting there, just like wondering why he decided to describe that using mollusks, and you're just like, why?
All right. Moving
You
on from
shake
that
your head.
topic as fast as I possibly
Anyways,
can. So, all right.
I suppose. Oh, I was gonna suggest, Snack. That aside, if we're looking at our list, I would probably suggest that we start with the second question, even though we've already kind of touched on that.
we
but
touched on
we
it a
weren't
little
recording.
bit, but like what?
Let me throw something else in before we move away from this.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned about Pepper. It all made sense.
Mhm.
So one of the things that one of the plethora of things that we talked about in depth that we wanted to do with this game. The first was it's going to be made and we don't care if anybody watches it.
Right.
It's got to be good enough that if somebody does make it through it, they're rewarded. We're not going to spoon feed them. And we want it so that all of those lines that feel like throwaway lines, like that feel like you're just coloring the scene, when they come back and read it a second time, those were clues, and those lines now may mean something completely different to them when they read it. The really hard part was getting that so that it wasn't washed down enough so that it worked 3 times and wasn't completely boring. We also wanted to really make sure that we made it worth your while. So if we were going to give you a big bunch of text and then we were just going to give you a little bit of text, there was a reason for that.
I think you kind of succeeded because we definitely started noticing, especially in our Claudia playthrough, the entire noodles versus noodles, distinction. And it's like, I see what you're doing here. Very well played. How little we figured out, though, that we were being super double, bamboozled.
That the capitalization mattered.
I think you succeeded in that. So bravo.
Yeah, well, when you start a sentence, you can use a capital, and that's a great way to hide things.
That's true. And so you talked about it a little bit, and maybe in your own way you've answered this, but one of the things we did want to ask was, like, what was the impetus? You said you had the story in your head for a while, but, like, what prompted OmOneko?
All right, so I lost a bet, and I had to play Doki Doki Literature Club.
Right.
And it ruined me. It completely. I fell in love with the medium, the storytelling aspect, the way that it's so simple, and yet it really engages your imagination and, as a player, your agency. And the connection, I immediately saw it, and it was really strong. So, when DDLC pulls the rug out from underneath you, I was like, this is awesome. I want to be a part of this. I met Diablo Graves. He is a big wig in the Doki Doki Literature Club modding community. So if you don't know this, there are thousands of Doki Doki Literature Club mods where fans have put together their own versions of the game and changed the story, introduced original characters, punished the character that hurt their waifu. And 99.9% of these games either die on the vine or implode spectacularly.
Right.
And I started helping by doing like sprite edits and backgrounds for these mods that would suddenly disappear. And then after DLC, I was like, okay, I need to play something else. What else is really good? And everybody was like, Katawa Shoujo. You got to play Katawa Shoujo. And that's how I met Expend and Oddball through the fandom. Oddball, big fan writer, ran the book club for a while, did some other things. And then I was like, this is such a great medium. I played a bunch of different games, and I was like, let's find out about cat girls. And I looked and I was like, ew, what is this? This is not cool. So that was when I was like, all right, they deserve so much more. This is such untapped resource here. And basically, to make that long story short, if that's possible, here we are today.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. I suppose this begs the question then, feeding into this. This is just one of those things because when I was younger, I actually wrote this entire dissertation on, I think I understand your passion for cat girls. And I actually was like, okay, but what if cat girl am real though? And so I go into, like the differences between feline physiology and humans and how you could potentially bridge that gap. It was very silly. Snek may have it still somewhere because I
have to
gave
check.
it to him because he was so enamored with it. But one of the things I always thought was very interesting was the fact that, at least with felines, they don't actually have collarbones. They have a completely different set of ligaments that, basically maintain that structure. So I was curious like the entire time, and I kind of brought this up to Snack, and I'm like, do you think they have collarbones? So I have to ask you, do Nekos have clavicles?
Shimmy has a box of them in the closet, and we don't know where she got them.
I knew that joke was coming.
Okay. Understandable. That's about as well as as I could hope for. This is going to be one that's near and dear to Noodle's heart. And this was also another thing that we kind of were musing about. So another thing we have to ask: when did you think up Sin Kitty, and what came first in the grand scheme of the narrative? Was it OmOneko came first and then Sin Kitty? Was it Sin Kitty came after OmOneko? How did that work?
It was definitely OmOneko, and then Sin Kitty came after, but I can't tell you exactly how it happened because the alcohol has washed most of that away. I will say that maybe Oddball or Graves, do you guys remember the conversation we had about CGs versus Sin Kitty?
That's really far back.
Okay.
I remember we discussed CGs. Because, earlier on in the game, we planned on actually using them. But that's just an issue we ran into with art.
Like, was that an engine limitation or was that a story-based limitation?
That was we don't have an artist limitation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the artist is a whole nother episode. But yeah, the original plan was to have a comic or comics multiple that could be sort of another way to give the audience hints about what's going on. Sin Kitty started as an amalgam of all three characters and then sort of became her own character as well in the early writing of her. We were super fortunate to get the Hive Mind, who wrote Emmy's Path in Katawa Shoujo, to do, I think he did 26 episodes, and we didn't use them all, so we still have some left over. Yeah, I've got this Google Doc that's just miles long of stuff that he wrote, and eventually it was basically less is more. We could have had CGs as well, but mostly when you're doing a visual novel, your CGs are your high points, maybe your low points. They're very poignant moments, a reward for the player to get as far as they got. And it was almost like it was just too much if we were to do that as well, not to mention the limitation of what are they going to be, where we're going to put them, who's going to do them. The project took us 4.5 years, and we didn't want it to take 7.
Right. So with all that extra content, have you guys considered like a Sin Kitty game or a spinoff or doing anything with those?
We have considered all sorts of things.
But nothing concrete, basically.
Okay. All
See,
right.
here's the thing. You guys, you didn't 100% the game.
No.
Oh. No.
So that question would have been answered.
That would have been actually a thing that we kind of discussed because Snek kind of is like, I love these characters too much. And
I can't do the bad endings, especially knowing that some of them lead back to Mia. Like, I kind of... Let's just say I have dated the crazy in the past, and I've dated women like Mia, and I'm like, I am not allowing Noodles back into that. Like, been there, done that, not doing it to someone else.
Yeah. So we
Hey, how do you think we wrote her?
Hashtag
How do you-
relatable.
No, actually, all characters are fictional, even the ones that remind me of my ex-wife.
Oof.
And I have been married, so I can make that joke. I have not been married, so I can make that joke. Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, we're the sum of our experiences.
Yeah.
You know, whatever those experiences are, that's who we are. That's, where our ideas come from. So, a dog barked at me and I was sad, and that's how I made Mia.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair.
Well, all right.
So for everyone listening at home, you have to 100% the game because I am too emotionally fragile to handle the PNG on screen being angry with me. So that's
I don't
on
blame
you.
Just lay on the ground and go, oh, blue, 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 and he'll be sad and he'll have to eat ice cream. Okay, now this is a kind of a tradition. I always have a situation in every single one of these, inevitably, whereupon I have a gun. And now just imagine it, gun to your head. This is a very important situation, very critical. We need
pooped
to know.
myself.
The people need to know which Neko is your favorite.
I think the one I had the most fun writing was Shimmy.
Okay.
My man. Good stuff.
Mr. Graves?
I'm gonna have to say Claudia.
Excellent
It
taste.
was a bit of a tough call. When I, really started, I started out just doing some proofreading, some helping out with that. When I really started moving into a more active development as part of the team, it was during Pepper's Root. And one of the things for me early on was that at first I really disliked the Root because it reminded me of a lot of tropes and a lot of other things that I just didn't like in fiction. And then I got to the end of it, and I kind of had that same experience that you had with it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm on board with this. And it's a tough call because I do really like what that route did with things, but I think Claudia is probably still my favorite.
No, I absolutely get it. And let me tell you, it was one of those situations where at the end of with Claudia, where we had experienced a lot of, I was like, I understand the appeal of Pepper, but I'm like, she's just so, she just rubs me the wrong way. But I'm like, you don't have the context, I guess. So.
Right.
I think that was one of the things that we wanted to do with every square inch or square centimeter, if you're in Europe, of this project was reinvent not only the cat girls, but reinvent the tropes. So it wasn't so much, all right, this character is a sundari, which I have pronounced absolutely correctly, perfectly. It was, well, if they have these qualities, why? If they're doing this in this situation, why? And one of the things that we did really early was every character had 3 questions. What is their biggest secret? What is their greatest fear? And what is their secret dream? And that really helped in sculpting how they were going to be as characters that were deeper than the tropes. And the tropes are tropes because they work. That's why they're tropes.
Yeah.
But by especially if it's it's not just what's their dream, because that's more of a direct path towards something. So what's the secret dream? That's the type of thing that might keep somebody from actually achieving their dream. So being able to, with all the paths, get people to go, from I don't like this character because that's good. You're paying attention. You're not supposed to like that character.
Okay, you've danced around it, Matty D. You have not told us your favorite Neko.
My favorite Neko is either Katrina or Persia. Katrina is the sprite that's when you hit escape and the menu pops up. She's also the sprite, the shadow that gets hit by the car when he talks about Neko's being bad at crossing roads, and that kind of
So we
dreamy
do have an
visual pops up.
identity. We do have an identity for her then.
Did you not pay attention when I said mental health issues? This probably could have been done in 3 years. We needed 2 more years to name sprites that don't have names.
Preaching to the choir,
You think
bro.
that's bad? There are characters
I mean,
that we wrote that. Go ahead, everyone else.
No. I want to hear what you're going to say, Alba.
Okay, I was going to say, if you think that's bad, there are characters that we wrote that never even appear in the game that have names.
Yeah.
You're missing out on like another 3 or 4 Nekos.
I'm going to sidestep your question again by telling you, so one of the endings in particular, it wasn't just like this ending. One ending in particular, we knew what was going to happen. But every time we created the how, there was that kind of little voice in your head that was like, it's good.
Doesn't quite work.
If you're happy with good, it's good.
Okay.
And so we'd be like, fuck. And we'd throw it down and we'd have to tear it up and start over. And we'd have to get to the how of what needed to happen.
Right.
And it wasn't until like Mr. Graves was like, we need to do like writing for the sake of writing, which felt like half of what we had been doing. But it's very much, you tell the technique, Mr. Graves.
Yeah, so the idea is, there's writing that you see that's in the story, in the game. And then there's writing that you do almost specifically to establish the characters and the world in your head. So that it's not just a matter of, okay, this character is going to do this thing at this moment. It's this character is going to do this thing at this moment because earlier in a scene that you didn't even see, this is how they would have reacted to this other part. So you there were several pages of writing that I did that was basically just this scene, but from a character's perspective that you will never see, specifically so that I could, get how they should properly respond to handle that scene. And then that lead into what needs to actually happen. And
so almost like a what if scenario, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
It helps with the world building. It helps with, making that character come to life, really.
All right.
Yeah. So it would be like, we would meet every Sunday, with the exception of a couple of holidays. We met every Sunday and even a couple of Saturdays on top of that, to talk about work that we had done, to go over stuff, to talk about ideas that we were working on in the future, how things work together. And, it wasn't uncommon to be like, all right, so what did you work on? And it would be like, well, okay, so I wrote this 7,000 page, 7,000 word thing about Lind, and he got up in the morning and, he stubbed his toe, and then he's getting evicted, and then he goes to work and he's got stomach issues and the toilet's not working, and that leads up to why he acts the way he does when MC comes in and says this line.
Wow. Which is funny because like Lind, there's a reason why we gave him that that kind of lame voice, because that's kind of the impression. That's kind of crazy.
Well, the fun part is sometimes you'll write that 7,000 word bit, and the result will be, okay, we know exactly how to have him respond in this one scene, and that's all you use it for. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll write that and you'll go, we gotta do something with this. This is amazing. This is something that goes into their character that the player needs to know about, and then it becomes part of the story. That's how it works sometimes, is
Yeah, so you take out the best of the best, and then you kind of filter everything out as like kind of the background noise then.
Right.
Mhm.
But even the parts you end up not using, if you can figure out, at least if they fit in terms with their character or in terms with how they would react to things, you can still use it as reference material.
Okay.
I can't remember if Oddball, you said yes, you played Dungeons and Dragons, but Mr. Graves and I, not together, separately played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. We were in a lot of different campaigns. And so I think that really helped. Let's use the word helped. That really helped us to look at the greater universe as just as important as the stats and the equipment on that character sheet.
All right.
That makes sense. I mean, I being a writer, yeah, you just kind of, in order to inform, at least this is my rationale. I'm kind of the Tolkienian mind where, you kind of have to have an understanding, at least as a writer, of basically everything that's going on within your internal setting. Your internal framework has to be internally consistent. And so even if it's not something that is going to be ever said, it's better to have that explanation so it informs what you're doing and what the characters do, because that makes the internal logic basically feel more real, if that makes sense.
It
So
gives
this
your
is the reason why,
character, yeah, it gives your characters somewhere to start. It puts them somewhere on their own arc, even if it's, the guy at the clerk at the convenience store. Yeah, it's essential. I mean, I don't think it's essential. I'm glad we did it. Let me put it that way.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
reading the Lord of the Rings, there are definitely some sections where you're like, if you just wanted the story, if you just wanted the character interactions, you might skip this part. But if you want to know about the world, if you want to really get into the heads of these characters, this is gold. And you've got like pages and pages of that stuff. That's just great.
This is kind of my frustration with a lot of the film adaptations. I think they're great, but a lot of them are like, we are very serious. And then you're like, guys, there literally was a situation where Samwise stops, watches this caravan of war elephants, and it's like, look, Mr. Frodo, they're Oliphants. Mr. Bilbo, told me this poem about them. And then he just goes off about this one poem about, an elephant. And it's like, yeah, it's really not necessary for the narrative, but it informs a good chunk of the way that Samwise, being this very parochial gardener who's thrust into this situation, his mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So
One thing
yeah.
I like to do. One thing I like to do in writing characters, and this has caused me conflict with the other writers a few times. I'd like to add a detail to them that completely does not match anything else we know about them. And then figure out how that works.
Well, that's cool. And I mean, it makes sense because people are weird and messy.
Exactly.
So yeah, one of the things that, and I will actually break our rule, guys, and share where that actually happened. So Claudia likes wrestling. Yeah, that was 100%. Oddball brought it up. And I was like, and out of nowhere, it was like we end our meetings with like, okay, that was exhausting. Let's go around the room. If anybody has anything else that they just now thought of or needed to say, we'll mention that, and then we'll talk about what we want to work on. And we'll go around the room, and like it's like Mr. Graves, okay, great, X-Men, great, okay, Oddball. Claudia likes wrestling. What? I mean, Claudia likes wrestling. What's that about?
I think that's called living up to your namesake.
The beautiful part about that was like I was like, this, you're making me, you're doing it on purpose to make me mad. And then as I thought about it, I was like, no, it's perfect because she knows it's fake. So she can get into it. And it was like one of those mind expanding moments that we would have every so often. So yeah, that, God damn that Oddball. It is.
This might seem strange, but one of my grandmothers was kind of the same way. She was a sweet, sweet, sweet lady, the kindest person you ever met. I learned many years later she loved professional wrestling. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see it. So when Claudia, this sweetheart cinnamon roll who has like not a violent bone in her body is like, yeah, she likes professional wrestling. I'm like, yeah, okay, that tracks.
So kind of related
Anyway.
to that line of thought, how did the characters all get their names?
That's all on Maddie. They were named when I started.
Okay.
Yeah, Claudia. Claudia was the second character. Shimmy was the first character, and she didn't have a name.
Okay.
This is like pulling out of my cerebellum here. But Claudia had a name and a personality, and I had a picture in my head of exactly what she looked like. She was just the sweetest cat, way too big for the room that she's in. Just adorable, and her name is sort of a juxtaposition because mom thought it was clever.
Right.
Then Pepper was the third character, but the second one named, and because she was just, she's a firecracker, and Pepper was perfect. And then I was out having sushi. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, fair enough.
Understandable.
And I still haven't answered your question about my favorite girl.
It's okay.
You remind me of Dutaku in many ways, and there are times where I just have to look down at the floor and be like, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah, welcome to our weekly meeting.
That makes me chuckle. That makes me laugh.
So there's a couple characters go through the game not being named. And it reminds me of the quote about Mount Fuji in Japanese art, where its inclusion or its exclusion is always intentional and very deliberate. So not naming a character, especially one that we spend time with, is a really interesting choice. So what is the waitress's actual name?
That's a great question. What do you think her actual name is?
Clearly, she is Beatrice, because not only is she a figure of beauty, but she also is kind of the driving force behind a lot of what Noodles does, much like Dante in the Divine Comedy.
Ooh.
The not quite to that point, but she does basically propel him in a lot of his kind of epiphany moments where he's like, yes, it's all within me. I can move forward and, get beyond the broken form that I am now. I am no longer just, MC. I am now Chad.
That is a much better answer than I could have given you guys.
Okay, so 1, why is he called Noodles? And 2, what's his actual name?
Okay, first off, to let you know, when we started this project, there was no main character at all.
Oh, okay.
Maddie wanted it to be a generic, this is you.
Very much self-insert. Yeah.
Okay.
And I fought him on that till I eventually got my way.
Yeah, I wish he was joking. No, actually, it was a much. So this was the thing that these guys I hope learned about me. My skull is kind of thick, and like a Bohr bomb, things hit me, and it appears that my armor has absorbed it. But then like 4 or 5 months later, I'll come back and go, hey, do you remember when you said this thing? I've been thinking about that. I think that was a really good idea. And this was one of those cases. Yeah.
All right. So why Noodles, and what is his actual name?
There was a few names that we've battered around. Nothing ever stuck. Maddie, this is one thing I did not get my way on. Maddie never wanted a name. He pulled the Noodles thing on us at the very last minute.
Let me tell you, that surprised my younger brother, because he's been Noodle for like at least a decade online. And so we're like, oh yeah, Noodles. He's like, what? What? This is the first I've heard of this game. What's going on? It's like, no, you don't understand. This is the main character in the game. And he's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
So
There was a name that we gave him just for our meeting purposes that, just so we could say this name rather than our main character or the main character.
Protagonist, yeah.
Corporal Crud, who was Haneko's writer in Katawa Shoujo, he did the 80 plus sound effects that are in the game, and he was also very much there to advise us on stuff. And one of the things that he said point blank was, like, I wanted a self-insert coming from DDLC. KS doesn't do it, but I liked that whole self-insert. It helped with the immersion. But he was very much, your characters have to be characters. Otherwise, there's nowhere for them to go. And that really led to, okay, we have to name him something, even if it's just, we're calling him Project Aurora. It doesn't matter. He's got to have a name. So, like Oddball said, there were several names that were batted about. There were several that were very, very seriously considered and used for a long period of time that just didn't stick. We ended up, tagging him with Noodles because it was a great way to show Goro's influence on Pepper. Back to writing for the sake of writing. Pepper is the way she is for lots of reasons, but her most direct influence was her pseudo brother, Goro.
And is that the reason Pepper likes to speak in rhyme?
Maybe.
All right, not getting the straight answer on that one.
that was kind of the thing that one question for Pepper is, I'm like, okay, so she's super smart. She's basically a genius. But why does she have to speak like Dr. Seuss?
Because it's fun.
Oh, I mean, understandable. And I get it too. I mean, just to give you guys some context too, the reason why we basically immediately settled on MC as the protagonist's name was, honestly, it's a kind of a nod to a author that I really enjoy, Michael Moorcock, who has this really, really amusing tendency to nickname or to have the initials JC for characters that are important. So I've kind of taken on that myself with characters that are important in my own writing, having the initials MC. And so it's like, oh, well, he's the main character. Clearly he is an MC. So he is just MC. And that's why for like the first a dozen or so things, we just refer to him as MC. So now you know.
I don't know, Matt. You think we should give him just one answer for this?
Is there one answer for this? I mean, we can tease them with a couple of the ideas we had. But will it steal the magic? Are we doing a disservice by taking away the imagination?
You know what? I feel like you have already established that you guys are unreliable narrators.
Hey, reliability is a spectrum.
I'm hard-pressed to argue that. I do want to shift my attention to another character because I feel like there's so much character development and so much potential there, and then you didn't give us a Veronica route. What gives, guys?
It was considered.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that, like, she is there. She, like, just is clearly crushing on him. She clearly cares for him. She loves Claudia. The two of them would be perfect for each other, and I completely understand that she wants Noodles to make the first move, and yet he is so in his head that he is just like, oh gosh, guys, I sure do wish that Mia would, pay attention to me again. And she's just like, say something, notice me, please do something. I was just gonna say, honestly, I'm like, this is the optimal route, but the unfortunate thing is that life is not optimal.
That is true.
In so many ways.
Well, you know what? That's a better answer than we could have given you than why we didn't do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair.
Well, okay. Kind of leading off of that, one
Okay.
of the things that we've kind of noticed throughout our reading of the story was, in the broad scheme of things, Noodles keeps talking about how Nekos are rare. Nekos are rare. Nekos are rare. No one has Nekos. But he also keeps stressing about the fact that the rat problem is ever present. They are incredibly dangerous, and they just seem to be everywhere. So the question is, in my mind, broadly speaking, and I understand that I'm probably not going to get a straight answer on this because this is not the way you guys roll. Is Noodles out to lunch? Is this a case where like he is just been conditioned by Mia to be like, no one likes Nekos, so they're not really a thing, and then everyone else is like, oh man, I sure do love Nekos, and everyone, is cool with them? Or is just this a case of there's like Neko apartheid and they're just kind of, they are off over there, and then there's everybody else? So how I guess the answer is Noodles out to lunch, or is there more to it than that? And
If Nekos were real, what kind of universe would have to exist for them to exist? You're basically talking about pumas that look good in bikinis and all the flora and fauna that supports and doesn't support that. How did that evolve through history?
Mhm.
And the stigma behind these non-humans in this universe is real.
Mhm.
But because our main character's a bit flaky, a lot of the things that he says and bases his decisions on are very arguably questionable.
So the idea might be sound, but he might be exaggerating the scope of it.
Or he might not. You don't know that.
Hmm.
There's, like I said, you guys didn't 100% the game. And one of the things that we did in a lot of places was, let's take this chunk out here. Maybe we'll leave a ghost of it just to whet the appetite of the reader. And let's put the meat of it over here in this scene, in this other route, after this choice. So a lot of what you're like, some of that gets answered in a way that sparks your agency. Why isn't there a Veronica route? Initially, there was a Veronica route. Initially, there were 6 routes, and each of the 3 humans were analogs for each of the 3 cat girls. And then it was like, holy shit, this is going to take us 10 years to make. Plus, we're making a cat girl game. So if somebody wants a human route, let them make their own. Let them do fan fiction or whatever and create it. So
don't worry, I'm sure Noodle is already well at work on that one.
If he knows how to pick apart the files, there may be some hints. So yeah. Veronica is a great character. And everybody knows it. Everybody in the game knows that she's a great character. And I think it's really hard to answer and not answer. So I think I'm going to ellipse here and see if the other 2 devs want to say anything.
I was going to say, stop me if I start talking too much. But in terms of, Noodle's perspective in the story, it is one of the interesting many interesting conundrums of this game, in that a lot of it takes place in his head. And even if it's not taking place in his head, it's taking place in his house. It's a very constrained location. So there is definitely room for some questioning of, what happens. But there are going to be a few hints and ideas here and there, because he does go outside sometimes. I mean, he goes to the store. He does interact with other people. And I think we tried to put a few things that we thought were important that would catch your brain in a way that would make you think about them. One of the things that I really like towards the beginning of the game is when we kind of just casually drop in the fact that he has an incinerator, and that it's like, wait, what? He's not living out in, the middle of nowhere where there's no trash collection. And it's like, what is that? Why did they just kind of said that and just kept going? So there are a few things like that we peppered into, the story. So, I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's definitely this or it's definitely that. But, there are little hints here and there.
All right.
Right. And that, honestly, that was something that we picked up on too. You have done a fantastic job with having this be a very psychological. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that a lot of the routes, each of the girls basically allows, I kind of said this with the Shimi tweet, Professor, we should probably have that somewhere in the description, just because we keep mentioning it. How Noodles is a very, very emotionally damaged young man. And each of the girls proceeds to, basically drag him out of that in their own ways. But because of that, he ruminates a lot. And that was kind of what made us start questioning us, because, like, hold on, he says this, but how reliable of a narrator is he? Is this actually reality, or is this just him in his own head? Which is why we asked this question, really. So,
understandable.
Thoughts and opinions expressed by our main character may not reflect the reality he exists in.
Yeah, that's kind of what we realize, especially with the entire, like, oh man, I sure do want to see Mia again. It's like, do you really?
No, you don't.
Do you really?
Stop lying. It's okay to lie to us. It's not okay to lie to yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right, I have the $1 million question, gentlemen, and I hope you'll entertain me for holding my card so close to my chest without hands. Are Nekos furry? Why or why not?
Are they monster girls?
I would say yes.
Then they're furry.
All right, fair.
No. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you saw him naked.
I did make an aside about that. Dutako and I were talking the other day, and I was like, if you take all three paths, like regardless of which one is canon or not canon, or however you want to look at it, it's like we've seen all three of these women naked. Like
Pepper multiple times in all the routes.
Yeah, Pepper repeatedly, Shimi a couple times in her route, and okay, this leads into another question that is equally silly, and this is kind of why I've waited so Big Brother YouTube won't censor me for asking this. In Claudia's story, when you're like well down her path, and the implication seems to be that Noodles and Claudia just go for it in the backyard. And I'm like, really? Did they just do that, like, out in the grass? Like, wouldn't Veronica be able to see it? And if so, was she into it?
He mentions that Veronica could see us.
Yeah.
If she was at her clothesline. And doesn't seem that that's as important as what's currently occurring more close to home.
I like to assume that she noticed and then immediately just kind of was like, well, that's happening, and then just left.
Goes back inside and pretends to think about something else.
No,
Sure,
she made
why not?
art, man. She made this magnum opus piece of art using
Interest of-
mashed potatoes and asparagus and Legos.
The Sistine Chapel of my neighbor.
Interest of fairness, if a 6-foot blonde was trying to jump on me, I probably wouldn't be paying too much attention to the world around me either.
That is a good point.
She honestly strikes me as like something closer to 7. The way that everyone describes her as just being like huge.
Okay, that's a question. Like, do we have canon heights on these characters?
Yes, we have. We don't have to the centimeter, but what we have is group images with them stacked from tallest to shortest.
It's like approximation in relation to each other.
Yeah. So when I was doing all the quote unquote directing, the actually making things look the way they should look, I have to keep going back to that because I'd have to say stuff like, okay, Pepper's eyes are at Claudia's lips. All right, let's make sure that that's how this looks in perspective, and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a really important piece of art.
No, I get it. Reference pieces.
Makes sense.
So, like, I do
All
have a
right.
question. There's one character that really caught my interest in all 3 routes because he has some of the funniest dialogue in the game because he reminds me a lot of Ditaku. So it's like, what is Sawbones' deal? Like, what does he actually do? Is he actually a doctor? Does this dude just like make his wages on like the black Neko market? Like, what is going on with this guy?
What's the scene in The Simpsons when Lisa drinks the water at the Disneyland-esque water park and she becomes the acid queen, the lizard queen, and the guy goes, take these and these and these and these. And Marge goes, thank you, doctor. And he goes, oh, I'm no doctor.
If you're familiar, there's... Oh, go ahead.
No, go, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, my understanding is that he basically is... we're big into Shadowrun, future, cyberpunk dystopia where you play as a bunch of mercenaries, tabletop RPG. He really strikes me as kind of a Shadowrun back alley doctor. He's unlicensed. He's not very professional, but because of this, he runs in a lot of circles where he knows a lot of things, and he basically will be able to do what is necessary in order to fix these, well, I guess, Nekos. But just don't ask too many questions because he probably is going to have to go to a guy. So that was kind of my understanding.
If you can imagine a supporting character from a game or story or something, who sticks with you because they had a decent personality, they had some pivotal moments, sort of like Veronica and the waitress have through MC's life in the story. Mm-hmm. And then you were to take that character and you were to have the next chapter in their life, and maybe they are a little less constrained in their new position with how they handle themselves. And even though they know they shouldn't, they sort of get into the whole bad boy aspect of it. All of our characters were really, from blank piece of paper up, I would say, except Sawbones. Sawbones was a tribute character that we reimagined having a second life. And I just everything about him from the art to his little mannerisms to the things that he says really have roots in who he was in that prior life. Oddball, does that sound fair? Does that sound like...
I think you can give him a little bit more than that.
You go ahead.
How much? The full story?
If anybody's still listening, then they're hardcore fans of probably our game and the other game. So
It's like we're an
yeah.
hour and
Okay.
20 in. You guys can spill as much as you want at this point and be pretty safe. No one's listening.
Cool. He is directly based on the nurse from Katawa Shoujo.
Oh, okay.
Which you haven't played yet.
I have not. I will have to experience that and find out firsthand then.
Daitaku, have you played Chaos?
I have not played it, but I was on the chans for many moons. I have basically been spoiled because I was there on a basically watching you guys put it together. I actually saw the original piece of art that inspired everything and kind of saw it all encapsulate together. So I am aware. I probably should actually sit down and read it. But I am aware I've so
All right. I mean, you
So
guys have
the the unofficial lore of his character is that it was a nod to another character called Nurse Kun from a blog post that went on for a while about a story called Damaged Goods, which was about a nurse in a hospital, and they had this patient come in, and she was the sole survivor of a car crash, and I think she was missing an eye, her arms and legs. I don't remember any more than that. But basically, this character, Nurse Kun, became basically the only thing she had, and they had her and the story went on, and it was touching until it got weird. Is my understanding of it. I wasn't there for it. So, this was sort of our way to give a salute to that and keep that tradition going on. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure we weren't plagiarizing anything, with the exception of maybe a couple of his expressions.
Okay.
So we said, what happens when he moves on from that life into his next life, and that's who we have.
All right, so let me prompt a question, because this will dictate the terms under which I experience this. Were I to play Katawa Shoujo, if I posted it on my channel, would YouTube demonetize me?
No.
Okay, so
No.
see, the thing is, I've played Snoot Game, and I could not post Snoot Game on my channel without getting demonetized. But I could do I Wanna Hug That Gator, and that would be okay.
It will emotionally destroy you, though, Professor. I'm just going to let you know right now.
OmOneko freaking destroyed me.
So imagine OmOneko. Imagine OmOneko with more hookups, and those hookups are graphic. They are hentai. But that's the thing about the Katawa Shoujo is 3 or 5% of the game is hentai, and the rest of it isn't. The rest of it is this emotional gut punch.
Okay.
So you could easily, I think that you're able to actually disable Katawa Shoujo, disable girls. You're able to disable.
His Twitter page is going to be linked in the description below. Please send all your negative comments to him, not me.
Hey, I didn't come up with that. I think what was it? You can disable all of the adult content, and the response was, they're all disabled. Isn't all the content disabled? Anyway, so so anyway, hey, edgier people than me came up with that.
That's true.
I was just influenced by it.
No, I am just in awe of how bad of a pun that was. That's all.
Again, welcome to our weekly meetings.
I mean, you guys have seen, our banter. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Now imagine that banter, and then you're taking notes so that you can turn that into scenes.
Fair enough. I will say, I told you, Matty D. I don't think I've gotten the chance to tell you gents about this. During the recording of OmOneko, in the earliest bits, like when we were still in Shimi's path, my cat, Miss Delilah, got really, really sick. She had FIV and a respiratory infection. And I was forced to make the painful decision to put her down. That happened as I was getting to the scene where Shimi was fighting for her life. If it sounds like I'm crying during that scene, it's because I am.
It's okay, man.
Like, that tore me apart. And, like, it was cathartic, and it was difficult, and I'm really, really glad that I did it. In fact, I'm actually really happy it happened during that time frame, because I think it actually helped me cope with it. Now, in happier news, around the time we were probably almost done with Pepper's Path, I adopted a new kitten into the family, and Lila's brother Dash has adopted this new kitten as his new little sister, and her name is Dolly Purton. And she is the most precious and adorable little thing, and if future me remembers, I'll post a picture of her so you guys can see her here on screen while I'm talking about this now. So
She has gotten so big.
She is. She's growing like a weed. She's an American Longhair, so she's going to get even bigger. So in that same vein, I do want to ask, did we do justice to the game? Like, what you're based on your watch time of the Let's Play, like, what were your thoughts? What were some big highlights for you guys?
Did you enjoy the game as you played it?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Every minute.
Then you did.
absolutely.
Then you did
yes.
justice.
So I will admit that I looked forward to the uploading because we have we've had a few people join our Discord since releasing the game who are very vocal, become great members of our community. We've had people join that just lurk. So it's not really so much looking for validation. It's looking for, did we accomplish the things we wanted to accomplish? It's back to that earlier, the death of the author discussion.
Right.
It really doesn't, what's important here is the audience's perspective on it. And because, so much of it we lived with for so long, rediscovering it fresh through someone else's perspective is magical as if we hadn't written it and we were just discovering ourselves for the first time. So I looked forward to your upload so that I could have it on and I could be doing stuff in the background that I was doing, and then I'd stop and I'd look and really connect with whatever it was you guys were getting mad about or enjoying or whatever that moment was. So if no one else appreciated you uploading that video, know that we very much did.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I am a big fan of Let's Plays. I've watched, I don't know how many of some of my favorite games over the years. And one of my favorite parts about watching someone play is, and I especially love watching them play story-focused games, is seeing how other people experience those, fascinating moments, and even sometimes just the day-to-day stuff of other characters that, were dear to me, that I found fascinating. Getting to experience that from someone else's perspective and them being able to add in, their own views or where they're coming from or how it affected them has always been a fun thing for me. And now, between getting to see you guys go through OmOneko, I've been fortunate enough to have some people play through, do some Let's Plays for the DDLC mod that I put together. Getting to see people do that for something that you've made is just amazing. It's really cool to see, this thing that you put so much effort into, into trying to craft, and seeing someone else it hit their perspective, and then being able to relay how it affected them is great. And also, you mentioned I really like making games and other things, but it's been primarily games for me that help people,
Right.
whether it be to provide them a new perspective on things, or to make them consider something they hadn't seen before, or to help them deal with something they hadn't been able to deal with before. So hearing that it helped you in a time when you were hurting, I definitely appreciate all the comments and all of the praise, but hearing that alone is like, yeah, this was worth every bit of effort I put into it.
I'm really happy to hear that.
So
it was kind of uncanny how that all came together, and it was kind of like, I mean, even just being on the other side of the country, just it was rough, and I'm just I'm glad that you got oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm glad that you got Miss Dolly, because honestly it was just you don't hear him much in the things, but Sir Dash will show up and he'll be there, and he would just be. It seemed like he was looking for his sister, and it's just one of those things.
Well, they grew up together. It's like Dash has never been alone. So bringing Dolly into his life, like, pretty much lit up his world, and OmOneko being this kind of weird parallel to between Shimi and I forget exactly when I adopted Dolly, but like it was between Claudia and Pepper's routes, thereabouts. It really was very serendipitous, and it really was great for me.
Okay.
I definitely know how you feel. I actually I lost my little shadow a few weeks ago, beginning of the year. So it's January has been a little rough for me, but I'm working through it. But
sorry to hear that. It is losing like a family member. I get it.
It really is.
People who don't have pets, especially pets that you really truly bond with. I've had dogs. I've always had cats. I've never bonded with the dogs the way I have with cats, but I do know people that do. And when you lose that, you're losing a part of yourself. And there was, I remember, some discussion about, do we want to do this? Every route's got a good end, a bad end, and a neutral end, even though we're not supposed to call them that. But we did.
Wait,
because neener.
Why not? Like, why aren't you supposed to call them that?
Because if you say this is the good choice, this is the bad choice, this is the good end, this is the bad end, you as a creator are going to bias it in such a way that you may miss opportunities. You may kind of put blinders on yourself. So you need to really look at, this is just a path. This path has this outcome. This outcome affects the characters in this way, and right around that.
Okay.
Because that's a much more broader focused scope than good end, bad end. That's much more two-dimensional, if you will.
All right, that's fair.
And we know that, and we were lectured about that, and we still called it that because we had to call it something, just like we had to call main character something. So there was discussion about, do we want to do this to Shimmy? And you guys don't know this, but at the time it was really heavy because one of the first people I brought into this project was X-Men. And he had been with me, helping me doing videos on visual novels before this was even an idea. And when I asked him to join the project, he shared with me that he had a degenerative condition and probably would not make it to the end of the project. And he didn't, by about a month. We ended up releasing Act 1 early on in the project so that, he could mark off his bucket list, published game developer. And then he got some work doing some real like AAA stuff. So I don't know why he needed that. But anyway, yeah. So we ended up, knowing that we were losing him and going to lose him while making the decision, do we really want to do this to this character? And it was part of her story. It was necessary to explore that so that we could also explore everything else that happens around that, as well as the things that don't happen around that because of it. In a way of sort of going back to the whole writing for the sake of writing, it was determined that not doing it would have been a disservice to her.
That makes sense.
Because that was part of her story, part of who she is.
Okay. So I guess my next question then is, did we just screw anything up? Was there anything that you saw during our playthrough where you were just like, oh my god, I can't believe you guys are so stupid. How could you have done that? Like did we make any huge blunders or misunderstandings along the way?
I can't really think of anything along those lines. One of the things that I thought when, you guys were like not quite certain what route you were on, my thought was, they'll get it eventually. You trust in your reader. They will, at some point or another, they will discover the truth and, they will still have fun with it. So, I wasn't too worried.
Okay.
So
I liked when you guys would, like read half a block of text and go on a tangent and get mad for like 10 minutes. And then you go back and read the other half and be like, oh, okay. And then keep going. I thought that was awesome.
Like
that. Welcome to the way that I read books, and because I'll just read, and then I'll be like, oh, I wonder what that means, or what's the implications of that? And then I just had this huge thought process, and then I just keep reading. I'm like, oh.
No, it was great because it was a peek behind your curtain, and at the same time, like half the time, you were like just. It was the answer was just out of your reach, and I don't mean like the rest of the block of text. Sometimes it was just the rest of the block of text, but there were other times where you were really getting into that. There's a lot more going on. That this line means more than it seems to mean, and so that was like.
I guess in that way, we were on the right track. We just needed to go a little bit further to connect the dots.
Yeah, like for example, I keep going back, me and the mouse in my pocket. I keep going back to the Veronica route that never was. And that you guys didn't 100% the game.
Right.
And I just want to say there's a reason it's called Goro's Gate. And I will leave that with you guys to chew on.
I mean, I completely understand. I personally would not mind, just because, I really like the thing. I really love what you guys have done. One of my biggest bugaboos, honestly, is the fact that I'm like, I just want more. But, I'm sure you guys are just tired of us being like, enough about Veronica already.
No. You can't have enough of Veronica.
Well, that's, I mean,
Veronica's
there's
awesome.
in my own. No, absolutely, she is. I mean, but to put in to just kind of have there's a particular character in one of my books that everybody loves her. She has some of the best lines. She is extremely quotable, but and everyone's like, but I want more of her. And I'm like, yeah, but see, the thing is that if you have more of her, it loses the specialness of what she has. You need to have her in small doses because otherwise she loses the the sheen, so to speak. So I was just, and it's kind of the thing with the entire two bags thing. We understand that it's a meme. We just thought it was really funny that just MC just wouldn't let that thing go. It's like, she just left with only 2 bags. But what does it mean? It's like, I don't know.
See, but I remember you did know. In one of those offhand moments, you mentioned something.
Yes, I remember the exact quote actually, because I showed it to a friend, and the comment I believe was like, "I've never seen a woman travel anywhere without at least 8 bags on hand."
That made me stand up when you said that. I was like, yeah, you get it, you get it.
Yep.
It's like, it's true though. Like, that's not. I'm not even exaggerating. Yeah. That's literally how traveling like that is. I'll be honest.
Yes.
So like immediately it's like, did you know she took everything in 2 bags? I'm like, did she? Did she really? Because I've dated a few Mias in my lifetime, and I'm like, buddy, you might want to start getting a metal detector and a blowtorch out and start figuring out what it is that's hiding in your house. Spoiler alert, it's not cat girls.
Like I said, I really love Let's Plays, and I love watching people's different perspectives. But what I also love is when you trust your readers and they're able to piece those things together. And it doesn't always happen, and that's okay. Everybody's experience can be a little bit different.
Right.
But when they read between the lines and they pick up what you put down, especially now that, I've had someone that's been able to do that for something that I've worked on, it's such a good feeling. You're able to put that out there, and they, you throw the ball and they catch it, and you're like, yes.
Well, amen. Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of moments like that in OmOneko, like on the repeat playthroughs. Like when we first went through Shimi's route, we kind of just had to assume a whole bunch of stuff at face value. And then by the time we were getting into Claudia's path, and towards the tail end, when we realized that Pepper was calling MC Noodles, and Itaku turns to me and goes, "Claudia like noodles best." And I'm like, oh my god, she's not talking about the dish. Things like that, where it all starts coming together.
I think it was actually that moment that we kind of realized what was going on, and like, oh,
you know what? That got,
well played.
That got the noggin jogging. So this is a weird question, and it may not go anywhere, and it may not. So are the Nekos based on real life cat breeds, or were they designed more in mind with just being 3 distinct characters? Because I think early on we mused that Claudia might be the equivalent of a Maine Coon if she's as big as they say.
So the answer to that question is yes to both.
Okay.
They are distinctive characters, in some way aligned with their personalities, and in some ways juxtaposed to their personalities. When probably about 8 months before development officially started, I got together with an artist named Fizzy Popcake, and she did the initial characters based on some really terrible what's it called when you you grab hair from this and you put it on this face, and there's a word for the collage,
like a collage,
based on terrible photoshopped collages that I threw together. And one of the things that we talked about was what kind of cats are they?
Right.
And Claudia, it was very much Maine Coon, Norwegian Forest.
Okay.
Shimmy was Siamese, and Pepper was tortoise.
Okay.
Okay,
See,
that's
I would
Maddie's
assume
answer.
that- I was going to say, I assumed that she was some kind of Pepper was one of the Egyptian.
Well, hang on, we're not
saints.
done. We're not done. So here's
Okay.
part 2 of the answer. Oddball.
That's Maddie's answer for whether they're a specific breed. I'll tell you that as writing the characters, I did not once think of any of that. They were the characters first.
Okay.
The reason this was kind of informed by me personally.
Okay.
I have you talk about cat girls being your white whale that you want to redeem. Mine are, I have werewolves, and I have an entire alien species of werewolves that are they show up in all my work. I get a lot of flack for it from the professor here. But the thing with that is a lot of them are I have like just kind of come down as like this particular one, they're based off of this one in terms of how big they are, in terms of their temperament. I mean, it's kind of expanded to that because I have like an entire culture, history going back thousands of years for these things, religion, all of that. But just that was one of the very first things I kind of mused about. And so I saw, this very, very graceful, very fluffy, very, honestly, Claudia, just like in a word, she is very fluffy. And so I'm like, she kind of reminds me of a Maine Coon. And so that's why I asked that and why we kind of asked that here.
Well,
So
I started thinking that like pretty early on in Act 1. You know the scene, they're in the living room when Pepper first arrives, and Pepper keeps whacking Claudia in the face with her tail, and then Claudia winds up and swats her back. Like, during that bit, when I was kind of examining her tail and her hair, I was like, she is fluffy like a Maine Coon, because Maine Coons are like, not only are they large, they're very cloud cats. Like, there's lots of fluff. It's like, I was kind of under the impression that Claudia was like a Maine Coon, and that Pepper was some kind of American short hair breed, and that Chimi was that snub-tailed Japanese breed who typically have dark coats. I can't remember the name off the cuff.
I think one of the things that was captured well in their art was those aspects of those cat breeds. But kind of like Oddball said, the nice thing about that was now we can sort of start from there, but what else about their character makes them interesting?
Right.
And I got to say, your art was very fantastic. One of the things that disarmed me for how like evil Mia was I'm like, oh, she's really cute, and then just like that entire thing
like the
unfolded
first 3
like,
minutes of the game.
Oh no. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussions, writing for the sake of writing, from Mia's point of view of things. We really didn't want her to be a hate sink, and I think she comes across that way a lot just because of when she appears in the story. It's because she's on a mission for something, or it's not to show her in her greatest light.
No, but I mean, there's that thing about antagonist meaning one who brings change. In that respect, I think she fits the term perfectly. But like the thing
that's a good way to put it. We didn't want her to be a villain, but she and Goro And most of the people in MC's lives are antagonists, and that's what makes the story work for.
Right. And I think the thing that was really compelling for me on a personal note is, like I said, I've dated Mias before, and Goro and Veronica both kind of have these moments where they're like, she's awful, dude, and you're like so much better off without her. And I'm like, I've had this conversation in real life before.
A few times.
Hashtag relatable.
Yeah,
yes, I was about to say.
I was going to add in, part of it is, realizing that you're in a relationship that is not good for you and being able to grow out from that.
Right.
And it's not just a matter of, oh, this person was bad for me. It was, I decided to be in this relationship and I need to understand why I should move forward and go a different path with my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
OmOneko, are we, is there any talk at all? And if you guys can't answer, that's fine. But is there any talk at all of a sequel or a spinoff, a guidance story, or even just a story set in the same universe?
You haven't seen the last of these characters.
Okay.
Well, that's good, because that was my biggest critique, and not even a critique. It's just, I'm like, I am enchanted with this world. I want to know more, and I'm frustrated just because I'm like, poor MC is not the best narrator. I needs to know more. We need another viewpoint. So
You should be careful what you wish for because you might get it.
rat.
Honestly, we had so much fun with it. That threat doesn't really register on my radar. So the next question that would be, what would you say to any aspiring VN developers out there?
You're not saying it correctly.
I'm not reading that long-winded ass paragraph you sent me.
If we let Daitaku ask it.
Okay, Daitaku, fire away.
All right. Okay, this is my question anyway, and I wrote, and I'm going to write it as I wrote it, and this was about a week ago. What would you, handsome, intelligent Giga Chad developers, say to little handsome Giga Chad Jimmies who wish to develop their own visual novel? What one piece of advice would you give them?
I'm going to tag in Mr. Graves because Mr. Graves deals with those Giga Chads and has been dealing with those Giga Chads for years.
I mean, I would say maybe the number one piece of advice is to start small. Don't try to do a 5-year project all at once. And don't try to do it without getting your feet wet and other things first. One of the things that is probably it's definitely instrumental to the fact that, I've been able to participate in game development today is that, when DDLC was released, Dan Salvato said, hey, you guys want to make mods? Here's all the assets are open for you in this game. I mean, it helps that, he releases a free game, so it wasn't like there were paid assets. They had to work. We can get into that later. But essentially, he said, here's a whole bunch of art. Here's a whole bunch of character sprites. Here's a whole bunch of backgrounds. Go nuts. And what that meant was, guys like me who were primarily writers and coders could take that and just run with it. And that was such an amazing thing for me and for a ton of other people. There's actually several other, there's a few other visual novels that are out now that are basically from people who originally or previously worked on DDLC mods. But one of the things that I saw happen again and again was somebody going, this game is good, but I'm going to make this 10-hour epic that's going to totally change how you feel about these characters. And it's going to have so much more amazing art to it. And it's going to be super cool and everybody's going to be awesome and they're going to love it. And they get about a month in and it just, they hit the wall and they realize, oh God, there's so much more to this. Even getting those character sprites and those backgrounds and that music and the code base to work from, it is involved and there's a lot to it, and it's going to end up being so much more than you expect. There are people who have, they said, you know what, our first one's going to be 10 hours long, and they pull it off. But so many more of them that have tried that have failed. And where I've seen a lot of them succeed is where they go, okay, I got a fun little idea that it can take, like, you can play through it in like 10 or 15 minutes. And they just, they work on that, and they get that experience of working with the script, and working with other people is huge. One of the really fun benefits I've had from working on this project is, getting to work on a team and having those ideas bounce off of each other and having those conflicts. But yeah, working on a little project to get you going, to have something that you can achieve, that you can look back and you can go, if nothing else, we did this, and that's awesome, And then you can start working on those bigger ideas. Then you can start expanding. Then you can start, I don't necessarily say you have to start with modding. You can start with, a tiny visual novel. There are some really good ones out there. I've seen ones that have been like just a 10-minute, experience that you can play, and you're like, that was really good. I really like what that person did with that, and I enjoyed it in 10 minutes, and that was it. And stuck with me for a while, and that, you can do that sort of thing. But having those smaller projects, oh man, you are so much more likely to succeed, and you are so much more likely to get the experience you need for working with those bigger projects. So if I could give you one piece of advice, that would be it.
I see.
Oddball?
If someone came up to me, the very first thing I would tell them is, you are completely nuts. This is going to be far more work than you ever thought it could be. Have fun.
Yeah, I was expecting that would have to be at least one of the answers, was like, my advice, don't.
Yeah, that was the advice I was given. Don't. Just don't. The Dunning-Kruger hits hard, and it never lets up. And you get to the point when you realize it's a problem at the same time you realize that you are in the sunk cost fallacy. So do you just stop after all that work, or do you keep going knowing that you're not even, you can't even see the summit from where you are? Every project like this, like if you're going to do something where you're doing a creative interactive medium, it's going to very quickly get affected by scope creep, because your ideas are just going to keep exponentially growing. And very quickly, you're going to realize that your budget is a third of what you need, that the time you're putting into it is a third of what it's going to take, if you're lucky, that the effort is going to be 3 times at least what you think that you have in you to do. So the idea of do something small is really hard for somebody that's got a tremendous amount of passion for something. I have this idea, and all I can see is just how magnificent it is. And you weren't recording when we talked about how passion fades, but spite, that'll stick around. So you really have to prepare yourself to realize that very quickly this is going to stop being fun, and it's going to become work. And it's going to become one of those jobs that's a job. I was in one of the many projects I was in. I tell everybody this story. I was doing sprite edits, just changing smiles to frowns and things like that. And there was like 20 people working on this project. And I showed up in the Discord one day, and there was 4 people there, and suddenly I had the tag of art director. And I went, uh-oh, that's not a good sign. And I wish that was like a one-time thing. But like I had said, so many of these projects, unfortunately, just either die on the vine or implode spectacularly. So listen to Mr. Graves. Take that great idea of yours, put it on a shelf, do something real small, and remember, the most important thing to take away, the first draft of everything is shit.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes the first 5 drafts.
Usually.
Yeah.
I said to these guys, look, I'm gonna do this. I got this idea. I'm hard-headed enough that I'm gonna do it whether I'm doing it on PowerPoint with stick figures. It's gonna happen. And I was just really, really fortunate that these guys showed up week after week. And I really think a lot of it was just to see how weird it was going to get. And then they got hooked. And without them, it would have been shit, because it would have been a first draft, and I wouldn't have had people saying, that's a bad idea, don't do that.
And we definitely told him a few times that he had some really horrible ideas.
Yeah, but sometimes you need someone to rein in your worser impulses. I get that.
I was about to say, you have been that to me, Professor.
Yeah.
I will say this. I will say that all three of us, when we were going, we had the worst ideas. It was almost like we were being spiteful to each other, just like, you think that's a bad idea? Well, what about this idea? And it would turn from mean to funny, and then it would get quiet and someone would go, we could take that. And I can't tell you how many times that actually became something big in the story. Birthed from a pile of spiteful dog shit to become something that was really powerful in the story. Very, very poignant in some way.
No, that tracks with what I know. So, gentlemen, I think we're kind of winding down to the tail end of things. So I'm going to open the floor to you one last time. Is there anything you would like to say to the good listeners who have powered through this 2-hour interview segment? Is there anything you would like to say to the people listening?
Are you still awake?
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Mine is usually coffee and a Vicodin.
Fair.
Once again, thank you so much. Getting to be an influence on other people's lives, getting to bring ideas to them, makes it all worth it.
Well said. Well said. And thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time out of your busy day to entertain our musings, our theory crafting, and our out-of-left-field ideas. It was a great deal of fun. We loved having you. And this has been a really fun, really encouraging experience for everyone.
Hey, it was cool getting to spend time with you. Don't be strangers. We're all busy.
Yeah.
But let's make sure that these aren't two trains passing in the night.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. No, we will definitely stay in contact, and we'll definitely have some fun Twitter exchanges, much like Itaku's crushed can of the can of crushed tomatoes.
Oh, don't worry. I'll think of something. I gotta, stop throwing weird, asides over to the Rockawin Studios guys. So
Yeah, we're getting mixed up in all sorts of different visual novels nowadays, aren't we? Funny how things change. Anyway, everyone listening at home, if you are indeed still listening, you absolute glorious people, please do that like, comment, subscribe thing that I am legally required by law to beg for every single episode without fail. It helps us out a lot, and these gentlemen are more than worth your round of applause, even if I am not. So once again, thank you, gentlemen, and we will see everyone next time.
Bye.
Bye. And stay tuned for more OmOnekoing.